Hello and welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to make myself a very simple light box for taking pictures of miniatures. Now, I bought a huge light box, which is absolutely brilliant and I love it very much, but it's very large, it works really well for terrain, but what I really want is something quite small, quite compact, which I can use in here at the end of a painting session, or if I just want to take pictures of some miniatures, and that I don't have to go all the way to where the large light box is set up, which takes a bit of a hassle and effort. It's so big. It's brilliant. I don't regret getting it in the slightest because I can take photographs of all of my terrain in there, but it's not quite so useful for miniatures, as I say. So I found a very useful tutorial on the internet for how to make your own light box, which I will link to in the description below, and it does look very simple. So let's stop rambling and let's start going for this build. The first step is to cut out holes in the top and the sides, which will then be covered over. So what the instructions say is cut the ends off and then mark a square that's about an inch in from each corner and cut that out. So I'm going to cut off the tabs with some scissors, and then I will mark the square on and I will cut those out. So you can see that there's a tab inside which I will need to be aware of, and that will actually make quite a nice kind of line for my inside, and that's probably about an inch looking at it, an inch and a half. So I'll do it an inch and a half. I'll get that drawn up and I'll get that cut. I'll turn the camera back on once I've finished drawing the square. As you can see, I've started marking out inside, and I've realised that that's a silly idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down this line, which is the line that I want to follow, so that I know where that is on the other side. I better find it, and then I'll cut along this line a little way just to begin it, so that I can start that line, so I know where I'm starting on there. And with that done, as you can see, I now have my line on the top. So I'm now going to draw that line and measure out, and then cut this out very carefully with lots of little slices. So I just thought I'd show that. So probably a better way of doing it is to mark through if you are going to be working with a tab on the outside, and then you can draw where you've got a little more access, because I think that cutting through down there and cutting through down there might prove to be quite difficult. Onwards. So guess which beard forgot to turn his microphone on for this bit. So what I'm doing here is I'm showing you how I have managed to draw the square that is what I'm going to cut out. So I've transferred that from the inside and measured so that I've got it roughly correct, and what you can see is that I'm actually still using that tab as a guide, because I don't want to have to cut through two layers of cardboard. So with a light score from the inside, I'm then going to be able to cut more successfully from the outside, which is quite useful, obviously. So I'm going to use my safety ruler to make sure that I don't slide. However, in the end, this did actually end to be a little bit more of a hassle than it was worth, because it's quite thick cardboard. It's actually relatively safe to cut as long as you're careful and you're not pushing too hard and you're not trying to force it too much. And trying to hold that ruler in place was actually more hassle than it was worth. It ended up being really quite easy to do this process, even round on the other sides. So even after I'd cut out this top bit and I went to the sides, when I was actually worrying a little bit that it would be quite difficult because the structural integrity of the box would be being lost, that wasn't the case. So I can tell you that now. You can have some confidence this is going to be easy. And as you can see, I take the guide away and it becomes it's actually relatively easy to cut without the guide. Now for some reason I go back to it because I'm trying to be safe, but it's actually, I think, safer. Look at that, look at my thumb, what a stupid thing to do. It's actually safer without the safety ruler for this process. So there we are. This was easy part, and the sides were easy as well. So just get stuck in, frankly. Get your sharp knife, make sure you've got a nice fresh blade, and go for it. Just don't force it. Pull nice and easily. As you can see, I'm not really putting too much pressure in, and it just pops out once it's been done. It doesn't take very long at all. So I will stop talking now. That seems to be the end of the clip, and I will now go back to the beard that remembers to turn the microphones on, and you can enjoy the live commentary. Now my microphone's turned on, I'm back from voiceover beard. So the next step very much depends on the tissue paper which you have. Now I have some very wrinkled, I thought I had more than this, but I can't find it anywhere. Probably after making this I will find it. But this is very wrinkled, it's not ideal. I'd rather it was a nice flat sheet. But this actually is the only packing tape paper or tissue paper I could find in the whole building. So there we are, a bit odd. So it depends on how large your tissue paper is. This actually, as it happens, I can tape it down over here, stretch it all the way around. It will actually do the entire box, which is pretty cool. So all I need to do is take a measure of how deep I want it, and I can do that quite simply by putting it on my table, on my bench, and taking a measurement here, marking a line. There we are, that's how deep it needs to be, and then I can cut down that line and get it to the right dimension. So I'm going to do that now, and I'll be back when I'm sticking it on. Alright, then that's cut, and now what I need to do is secure this in place. So what I will do is I will fold this over and tape it at the back there. And I'm also going to reinforce these sides while I'm at it. So I've got some sellotape, or it says packing tape in the instructions, but sellotape I'm sure will work just fine. And so I'm going to do this in a couple of stages. I'm going to do a little bit of tape first, put it roughly in place, and then put more tape on after. So I like sellotape because you can cut it with your teeth. So we will roughly hold that in place there. Okay. And then getting some nice tension on, I'll roll it over, and you can see that that is going to work fine. So we'll get some more tape, and we will tape this in. Let's get that tension up, get it nice and tight, and hopefully I won't tear it. There we are, so that's roughly in place. So what I now need to do is tape it down and secure it along the edges. So let's get that done. Okay, there you can see that we have tissue paper secured all the way around the box. As I say, this depends on the size of the tissue paper you have. You may need to do different panels, but that's fine. So long as you end up with it looking a little bit like that, I think you're good. So I'm going to now check out what the next step is, and I'll be back in a second. The next step is the last step, and it says to use poster paper, but I don't have any poster paper, so I'm going to have to make use with this A3 sheet of A4 normal printer paper. It's a little bit wide to fit in, as you can see. So what I've done is I've marked out where I want that to be cut. I will draw a line at 90 degrees and then cut that out, and then you stick that in with a curve, and that is the final step. So I'll get this done and I'll be back with the finished thing. And there we have it, finished. What I'll do now is I'll drop the camera down and we'll look at what miniatures look like when they're inside. Absolutely brilliant. Look at that. Zoom in. You can see that the light there is very, very good. And if I adjust these to be coming in slightly from the top, if I get more lights maybe coming in from the side, it really does make a difference. Push them back a little bit. That is going to make taking photographs very, very much easier for me, and I'm very pleased. Well, that was a nice quick build for you. I hope you found that useful. I certainly have found it useful to get that done. I think I need to put some better lights on it, and potentially I would make use of a ring light that's behind my camera when I'm taking pictures as well, which I already have. But that's going to be a lot more of a easier tool to use than the huge kit that I've got that I use for my terrain. I'll pop a link to that anyway, because it is very good. It's brilliant. It works well, and all my other pictures are taken on that. All my terrain pictures will continue to be. But this will be useful for my miniatures. So anyway, I hope that was useful, and maybe if you give it a go, you can let me know in the comments. It'll be really cool to hear if that's helped you as well. If you're not yet a subscriber, please do subscribe. It's great to see those numbers climb. And don't forget to ding the bell so that you're informed whenever one of these videos goes live, because YouTube won't tell you if you don't, basically. And last, but very much not least, thank you so much for watching Beard Clipper, and please stay safe, stay well, and stay healthy out there at this crazy time.